5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
You are listening to Stay Tuned, El Paso, with Victor Cruz and Charlie Moreno.
The best thing to happen to El Paso ever.
The greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
I just realized you're using a soundboard for all that. I thought you had everything already produced as a full intro.
No, this is the work I put in. It's quality.
I like it. You like your little soundboard. I'm surprised.
I used to have one already laid out and stuff, but I like to be able to change the music and all that stuff. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, you could almost work in radio. You know that? You really could. With your little hot buttons and soundboards.
Pew, pew, pew.
Lasers and fart noises. You're listening to... There it is. Stay tuned, El Paso. Victor Cruz, Charlie Moreno, Erica's with us as well. So now explain to me...
That's Erica on my right, and you're Victor.
On the left.
I'm Charlie.
And in front of you is Barry. We'll get to Barry here in just a few moments.
Barry Peterson, we're going to be talking about gun control and gun rights and anything that falls into any of those categories.
Because as we're recording, there was yet another mass shooting. And I don't want to say school shooting, because it's a mass shooting.
Let's
That's
just
what it
not say
boils down
shooting.
To. No, let's not. There was an incident.
There was another mass.
There was another. There was another.
People
occurrence.
died. There's another mass.
I guess. Sure, that's no joke.
Thoughts and prayers, y'all. Thoughts and prayers.
That's a way to spin it.
But as we recorded this, we had a guest previously, so this is going to happen before the next guest.
Yeah, this episode will air. Will go out tonight, which is Sunday, the 18th, and then the one we recorded earlier will be out next week.
Oh God, here goes this one again.
Yeah,
here comes the cough.
No.
I know. I can't. I'm sorry. It's the last of it.
Of what?
I need a.
I don't know.
You
I don't
got
know
the
what
allergy?
it is.
I need to put a mute button on his.
Got the allergy.
I don't know. It was allergies. I don't know. Last Sunday was horrible. Thank God we didn't record last Sunday.
Next week, you just wear a mask the entire episode.
I'm not showing up. I'm just not showing up.
You kind of live here.
Well, you're not showing up then. I'm not.
We'll
answering
do it
the
on
door.
Skype.
So you know me with the purpose of having the podcast and trying to find a resolution, resolve something, find a solution. We have to have experts in something that we're talking about. My feeling. So Erica, as the medical expert, what's wrong with me? Jesus.
You, sir, have the allergy.
Okay, but is it the
You have
flu?
cooties.
Do I have? Yeah.
Fucking cooties.
I think I've ran through the gamut of everything I could get. I think I even had bronchitis, but I apparently did not have time for it. I had
Sickle cell.
I
You
had
have the
bronchitis.
You have a urinary tract infection.
I checked my schedule and did not have time for it. So it's not
Nobody
bronchitis.
got time for that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What's the deal with this new strain, this new round, this new? And I'm not even calling it the flu. It's like crud going on right now.
It is crud. It's
like
disgusting.
AZ flu.
Yeah,
It's actually
it just won't stop.
The highest, the ones that I've seen more commonly are A and B. Those are the strains that we've been seeing and diagnosing the most.
Okay, so
A and B.
explain what is A and B? What is it?
I think those are just the most prevalent strains out right now.
Is that just their names? The A flu, the B flu. This is what we're getting this year.
We don't want to. We don't want to assume gender or anything. So
Well,
it's
no,
just
I'm
A
just-
and B.
Yes.
Should I be worried about?
A and B.
Should I be
or
worried
B,
about
A
D and E?
What if B wants to
I
identify
don't know,
as
man.
E?
There's a lot of people who do have worries about the D. So
D is
you
not
might
a
want to
whole-
be careful there. You might want to keep it together.
If it's oozing, get it checked.
Yes, please do.
Well, then let me just say, my God, I hope I don't get the D.
The ERs are acceptable places to go check the
I wouldn't-
oozing D.
I wouldn't know where to put the D if I got it.
Oh man,
Oh.
you got this is another episode
I
altogether.
wouldn't know where to. By the way, did I mention to you guys? Have you guys caught on? I don't think we've mentioned it on the pod. This is completely separating from anything we're talking about. But have you guys noticed I've stopped cussing?
No.
Have you
No.
noticed that
No.
I've tried taking? Really? Well, what the hell?
Fuck it.
Well, shit.
Is that for Lent or what?
No, I just maybe that'd be for another topic, another podcast.
When
but-
we're really in need of material.
yeah, we got an hour to kill.
We're
I just-
scouring the bottom of the barrel.
I just figured, and Charlie, again, something that we've talked about before, but it's not an issue of becoming a better person or becoming a holier person or none of that, because you guys know
yes.
I'm far from that. Yeah, I posted it a while
Yes.
back.
Oh,
Yes,
It's
remember
that's
that?
still a thing?
Yeah,
Yes,
it's still
it's still
happening.
going on.
I haven't stopped.
I thought that trend had ended already.
I
No.
think Charlie and I cuss enough for all three of us, so I
Yeah.
guess that's
It's
why we
been
didn't
covered.
notice.
Yeah, I know. You guys are helping me out with what. So it's just something that I've tried to do to if see if I can do it. It's almost a social experiment. And the one thing that I've noticed, not cursing, and I've slipped here and there. I've said a couple of words, especially at work, doing some stuff. You know, and you say it. I mean, that happens.
Oh, work.
But social, and I guess there's really a term for it, social cursing. I've really tried to cut back on that. And the one thing I've noticed is people cuss a lot.
Oh, yeah.
People,
welcome.
there's a lot of wow.
But there are studies that show that cussing, using foul language, actually is a sign of intelligence.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So you think you're holding yourself back now?
Oh, what?
You want to reassess your IQ there?
What's
Lucy righty tighty?
what's the study?
What are we studying?
I've actually, and it's stressing my brain a little bit trying to find another word for when I want to say something.
See, here's the thing, though. I can find several cuss words for that one emotion.
I know, exactly. And that's I sound like freaking Ned Flanders, you know. Hi, diddly doddly, ow, or whatever.
My God, are you still talking?
Yeah, see that. So, but this flu thing. Hey, I got to tell you, this flu thing. Huh?
Yeah, back to the
I
flu
gotta tell
and
you,
this allergy and
Yeah.
whatever I've got.
it really hit me hard.
It's
Whatever the
scurvy.
strain is.
It's scurvy.
It's scurvy. I
got
need more
scurvy.
fruit.
You got scurvy,
Not enough- oh, man.
measles, and shingles, and sickle cell,
It was
and
bad enough. Thought it was bad enough with the heart attack last year. Now
Oh,
I got
man.
scurvy.
See? You see what happens? They cut you open, everything else jumps in.
You know, there's a part of me that
That believes that.
Yeah, there's a part of me that
you
actually
think
thinks that
it came from that.
something. The
You had
hospitals are
heart
dirty.
surgery, and they just shoved germs in there.
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably got MRSA now, but let's not go there.
Here's the Seinfeld reference.
Swine flu.
Oh, God.
Here's the Seinfeld
Actually,
reference.
swine flu is supposed to be influenza A.
Oh, really?
It was at one point, but then they changed these things around all
bird
the time.
flu.
It was H1N1.
What's
Right.
this year?
Influenza
Chinese
A.
So
year?
again, so is that
So
is that
I
still a
don't
thing?
even- I
Is
don't
that
even know what the hell is which. I just know it's flu A, flu B. That's what we keep getting.
it's the
don't-
dumbing down of America?
Because
we went
we've
from
got to use
H1N1.
letters. We've got to use letters now. Just one simple letter, and that's
So,
it.
how dangerous is this flu now? Because I hear more fatalities from it, and we've had a few in El Paso.
Yes.
So,
There's articles all over Yahoo about it.
I'm a man of science. I love science, and
I only believe in science.
yeah. But what's going on then? Is it true that it's people that have pre-existing conditions,
Are
poor
more
health?
prone to actually succumbing to it.
Okay.
As a
and that's
finality.
with pretty much anything, right? With any
Yes.
viral infection or I mean that's
That's anything.
It is with anything.
You're
And
sick. You're
and
going to get sicker.
if you're fat, you're more likely to get hit by a car crossing the street.
because you take up more
That's-
space. I mean,
that's
it's just
physics.
relational. Yes.
Science and physics.
strictly
See,
relational.
You
Yeah.
can learn from Stay Tuned El Paso.
It's a
Indeed.
very educational show.
Yes.
Nice. Barry, you missed that. He took his headphones out. It was another fart noise.
It's loud enough for he.
Oh, he's got no sound.
You have
you
no
gotta-
sound?
Yeah.
Are you
Well,
serious?
no wonder he's not laughing at the fart jokes.
Can you hear now?
He can appreciate a good fart joke now and then.
There's probably a second.
Did we
make sure-
unplug something?
Make sure that one is plugged in.
Pushed, plugged.
Okay. Technical
Yeah.
difficulties.
Oh, it's got a button here I gotta push.
Well,
that-
that's for
that's
the,
the safety.
microphone. That's the microphone. That's for like a.
Make sure your headphone safety is off.
I can hear it if I hold this button down.
Really?
Wow.
Okay.
Oh no,
Well,
it went away.
okay.
Well, then don't do that.
Here, you can use my headphones, but they're.
They're sweaty now.
Are they sweaty? Yeah.
I mean, I can hear you guys
Sweaty.
from here. I don't
Okay.
know.
You don't need to.
don't-
He doesn't need to hear the sound effects of the farts.
Well, imagine a fart, and I'll just point at you when it
We
happens.
have some audio that I'm gonna play later, and I'll make it so where he can hear it, but it's not really.
Well,
you
let's quickly back into the flu.
Yes.
So all these stories that we're hearing about a young child who did not get the flu vaccination and then they end up unfortunately passing away. I mean, should people still be afraid of the flu shot? Does the flu shot work? Am I going to get the flu when I get the flu shot? Blah, 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 blah. Take it away.
A lot of the reports have been coming out saying that this last round of flu shots was ineffective. What they do is they'll test it out in Australia and they kind of go off of whatever flu is most rampant out there. They use that as a basis to come and bring the vaccine out here to the States, and that's how they go about vaccinating everyone. That strain that they found in Australia didn't make it to the States, and instead we got A and B. Whatever was over there, I don't know. I guess that was C and D.
Australia, you got the
The Aust-
They got the D.
they got the D.
They got the D.
So
we got
so
the D. We got the D. We got
they whatever flu they had,
So that's why it was just rendered ineffective
we got the
here.
and so that flu shot that we have now
So I guess we
has
got
nothing to do with.
I guess we got the vaccines for the D, and we got flu A and B. But
I'm so confused. You're just gonna
it's
make me cuss.
weird.
I'm just gonna. It's just
Now
gonna,
this is making it interesting now.
this is gonna break me now.
Sweet. I'm making that my mission.
Oh, nice. I appreciate
So-
that.
No, but I mean, in all seriousness, that one particular case with that kid, I haven't read more into it.
It's a local case?
No.
No?
I
Like
can't
Which was the
remember.
one? Is that the one I shared with you
Yeah.
or whatever? Yeah. Just it's a Yahoo case. It was a Yahoo
but
news
it's a
story.
very vague
Okay.
article. It didn't really say whether this kid had any other conditions or was born premature, whatever the case was. This seems to be the one and only case that I've read about where the patient didn't have any pre-existing conditions and seemed to have died strictly because of the flu. The vast majority of the other deaths have been of patients that have other maladies,
Yeah.
pneumonia, CHF, COPD, especially the respiratory diseases seem to be the ones that are prevalent, or a lot of cerebral palsy in the younger patients.
Yeah.
So then let me ask this. I'm gonna
What about
attack
diabetics?
you. Yeah. What about
Actually-
diabetics with balding hair patches on them? With the heart situation, does that happen?
What about fat, bald Mexicans?
Who like dogs?
Who probably don't go to the doctor or get
God
diagnosed with
damn
anything,
it.
right? Yeah.
So
Don't let anybody cough on you, please.
listen. Listen. Sorry, I had to clear my throat.
Yeah,
So
just spread your
can the flu kill?
allergy.
Can the flu kill you?
Oh, yeah.
Alone,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and say no, but I am not an expert.
Okay. So can getting the flu shot help you?
It won't harm you.
Okay.
Although to be fair, and I'll say this much, I do have the flu shot, so mine seems to have worked. I work
With
4
sick
days.
people.
Yeah, I'm in, for all intents and purposes, in a petri dish full of flu for
just reminds
40
Like fun.
for 48 straight hours.
That's a sexy
a week.
job.
Yes, it's fantastic. I love.
Just remind everybody you can work at
love-
the hospital,
Yes, I do.
and you do that 4 or 5 times, 4 days out of the week.
4 nights. Yeah,
How many hours?
12 hours each.
So you're in
And
that environment.
oh yeah, and there's sickly people all over the place, and I've managed to not get sick,
Yeah.
luckily. Whether it's because of the flu vaccine or whether because I have a good immune system
Or you've just been lucky.
or that alone, I'm not sure.
On the other side, I don't work out. I don't exercise. I don't eat healthy. I rarely ever get sick. I've probably gotten sick probably 3 times in the last 10 years. I've never had the flu shot. I'm fucking fine. But how much of that is genetics and how much of it is luck and how much of it is that I think I have a strong immune system.
But are you
That's
of the
what it
belief?
sounds like.
Yeah, because I don't wash my hands after I go to the restroom. I don't shower, and
Barry,
I'm around
you
animals
just
all
shook
the
your
time.
hand right now after coming out of the bathroom.
Yeah,
You
so
might
now
wanna-
I've boosted his immune system.
by sharing your disgustingness. Sweet.
But I mean, are you of the
He's
belief?
like, oh man, I'm gonna cut off my hand.
Are you of the belief, though, Charlie, that I'm not going to get the flu shot because I'm going to get the flu and it'll be worse? Or
no.
If I don't get the flu shot, I'm going to get the flu. Or
No.
I'm not into vaccinations. I'm not into. I mean, let's up it up. Let's take it up a notch with vaccinations altogether.
I turn 40 next month. I think my luck is running out. I think I'm gonna start.
You're gonna
taking,
stop
You're on
pushing
the
it.
clock now.
Let me just tell you, dude. 43. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna start taking the flu shot. Also, my wife is an educator, so she works in the school. She has a weak immune system. She's had health problems ongoing for a while.
Did she get the
So-
flu shot?
Yes, she did.
Good.
Yeah, and for that, because again, I'm turning 40 next month. I'm not gonna risk it anymore. Again, I don't work out. I don't eat healthy. I think I've just mostly it's my immune system that's strong, and
You've been lucky so far.
I've been lucky. I was homeless in New York, and I was around a lot of germs.
That's what
and
did
I
it.
never got sick.
Yeah,
It helped me.
And predisposition to germs and diseases will make your immune system
That's
pretty
why,
ironclad.
if anything, I'm against these places that have hand sanitizers everywhere,
Everywhere.
and that people are constantly using hand sanitizers.
Then you're
'cause-
too clean.
right.
You're not
Well,
building it up.
Exactly.
I've said that ever since the beginning of having these places with hand sanitizers and constantly washing and always cleaning.
My son was born a preemie, and there's
Congratulations!
always and,
Yay, March of Dimes!
yes, never had anything to do with it. But they do have this kind of like
That made the
It's a
labor
reversal.
and delivery easier, right? Because he was smaller.
no, I was cut open.
Oh,
She's smaller.
Damn it.
She's smaller in stature as well, though.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's physics at work. It's all perception. I don't know. I've never seen.
No, he was cut right out of me.
Okay.
He was scooped out.
He was pried out.
Salad tongs.
He was literally hanging on to stuff. He didn't want to come out.
didn't come
No, he was all screaming and yeah, it was interesting.
Well, Erica, I wouldn't either. Hey, just saying.
Oh, God.
I'm sure it had nothing to do with that. Though.
I'm just saying if it were. So now let me ask you this then. He was preemie and he was born cesarean. So whenever he leaves a place, does he go out the window?
Yes.
He has to, not the front door.
There's a direct shoot that's aimed right at this car seat in the car. And it just goes right in. No outside contact, just straight to the vehicle.
Here we thought this was going to be the tough podcast. Here we thought this was going to be.
Now we've just managed to shoot my son out a window. It's great.
The podcast before was the hard podcast,
I'm sure
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure his 9-year-old self would like to hear this.
Save this for posterity or
Yes.
prosperity or wherever.
Posterity.
Wherever you're going to save it at. Save
Cost
it.
whatever.
So Barry, do you take the flu shot, or are you against it, or are you opposed, or what's your feeling on the flu shot?
I haven't gotten a flu shot in years.
No.
Have you been sick? Do you have any pre-existing?
How
nothing?
old are you?
No, I'm fine.
Roughly, how old are you?
I'm 38.
30. Oh, okay, we're close.
Yeah.
You look way younger than I do.
I'm sure he wasn't homeless in New York.
But did you see all of a sigh of relief?
He probably had nice things like love and family.
A middle name.
He said 38.
A white last name.
He
Yeah,
said 38, and we all went. We're okay. I didn't frisk him when he walked in, so we're good. We're good. We're clowning with Barry a little bit because of the reason why we brought him in. Let's go ahead and move into that topic now.
Well, really quick before we do that, and on a more serious note, and talking about the flu, I have a coworker who unfortunately passed away due to the flu, is what they're saying. Yesterday.
That was yesterday. Yeah.
Wow.
But as far as I know, she did have some pre-existing conditions. What they were specifically, I'm not privy to, but either way.
So can we then just say if you don't jump at a conclusion about the flu or not getting the flu
No,
shot
but, I
or
mean-
being the flu, you have to do your own quick little research, common sense.
Also, do be aware of your symptoms. If you've got lingering fevers,
Don't wait
yes,
forever.
please don't wait 5 weeks.
Or start rubbing Robitussin on
Yes,
it.
if the Robitussin isn't working after 2 days, let's go to the doctor.
Don't start rubbing Robitussin and drinking Vicks. Is
Yes.
that what you're
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
Smoking it, whatever.
Or
you want.
whatever you do with whatever you want.
in making light of, but however.
But
the,
no,
the
in
fact
all
of the matter
seriousness,
is
though,
common sense.
We did lose someone that we worked with in the EMS family and on my side, and just it's one of those things,
Don't know if it could have been or not, prevented of it happening, whatever. But the bottom line is take some common sense. Don't wait to the last minute. Of course, if you have pre-existing conditions, I hate that term, but that's what it is. If you have other conditions with you, obviously you can take more.
Exacerbating factors.
Thank you. Those are big words. I was just going to say, if you're sick, you're going to get sicker.
Somebody
you've
give
got
me a
the
little
allergy-
bouncing ball. How many syllables was that?
So Barry.
Well, Erica, thank you for bringing the show down. I appreciate it with that last little tidbit of information.
I love contributing.
Our condolences to the family, and that's
Indeed.
horrible.
and our
But
thoughts and prayers.
That's one thing.
Thoughts and prayers.
Share, yeah. That's one of the things that I'm seeing more this flu season is way more people are being affected by it because, I mean, I don't know what's going on.
At the same time, it's also probably got to do with the reporting and social
Right.
media, and
More
that's
stories are catching on.
exactly. So a lot more people are hating share, and oh my God, share.
It's those Russian bots.
It is the Russian bots. It's Putin.
So we had a shooting recently, another shooting, and this one was carried out at a school in Florida. And this was a student that was 19 years old and expelled. So again, every time there's a shooting like this, the debate starts again. And it's usually, should we ban these weapons, or should we make it harder to get these weapons, or in some cases, should we just charge $500 per bullet? Like, what is actually going to help? And I've been trying.
Is anything going to help?
And that's the thing. Like, for me, that the reason I wanted to bring somebody in to talk about this is because, as far as I know, the three of us on the show are not against guns. But I think there's an issue going on that needs to be addressed, and it's just a matter of looking at it from different angles. It's not just if you ban the gun, a specific type of gun, that's not going to stop it. There's always going to be mental health issues. There's always going to be the impulse. The people that lack impulse control, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be gunshots and gun victims.
And let's be real, they're always going to be available.
Yeah, but
on shady corners. And
let me just also add in, I don't think there is one end-all, beat-all solution to what the problem is.
Agreed.
And it's not just school. I still want to throw out there, it's not just school shootings either. It's
Right,
a mass shooting. It's
a
some
mass
sort of
shooting.
mass shooting.
Right.
Don't let it get covered up in social media or in the news. And I'll be the first one working in media to admit, this is gold for
yeah.
media.
Right.
This is what they wait for. The flu, hey, that's kind of cool. That's
hey,
the
that
bronze.
that was cool for a little bit.
But now this is, let's latch on to something, and I think too many people don't do enough of the research for what's presented to them in front of them.
Yes.
Yeah, and me personally, I feel like I'm not against guns. I'm not against banning all weapons or anything, but I do have a problem with the AR-15 style weapons. I do have an issue with that because they are made, and we're going to have a discussion. We're going to be talking about how do you define assault weapon? How do you
Semi-automatic, Uzis.
There's different
any
types,
of those.
but a lot of people on the pro gun side will say this weapon does the same thing that a handgun that's a semi-automatic weapon will do. There's obviously a definition of it, and Congress has written one. People believe another one. A big misconception is that AR stands for assault rifle, and I know that's not true. It's armor light rifle. There's things that people are ignorant about. And again, I'm not against guns. I personally don't feel I need a gun, and I've owned guns. I've shot them. I'm pro law enforcement. I just don't see the need for me to have an AR-15 style weapon.
Military style weapon.
And the more I see these shootings, I'm starting to question. I don't see the need for people in general to have these types of weapons. So if you guys want to go into how you feel, and then we can start to kind of go over what.
Well, let's go back. Let's real quick reintroduce Barry with us, since Barry's in the mix, and that way we don't spend too much time having to introduce him once again and once again. So
because
Barry,
poor guy, we've already introduced him like
5
million
times. I understand. Charlie put the call out to somebody for this debate. Not even debate. Discussion.
Discussion,
It's
yeah.
going to be a discussion about these type of weapons. So Barry,
Let's set some ground rules before we start. Number one, I'm pretty sure we're not going to change each other's opinion.
no, maybe it could be swayed or shown a different viewpoint, but change. No,
Yeah, I don't think we're going to solve anything in this discussion. And number two, let's try not to use analogies, and if we're going to use analogies, let's try to actually make it a real analogy rather than just reaching for whatever.
Right.
And obviously no personal insults.
Okay, fat ass.
Thanks, you cunt.
Well, now that we've got that off our chests, let's move on.
All right, Barry, you putz. What do you got?
What was it? You pair of ass hats?
So tell us a little bit about your background and how you feel about the issue.
Yeah. Okay. So I started shooting. There we go. Sorry. I started shooting about 15 years ago. Kind of late in life for a lot of folks. I do a lot of competitive shooting, pistol, rifle. I don't even own a shotgun. I don't like shotguns. I do own ARs. I got a stack of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about.
Is that how you store them though? You just stack them on top of each other?
That's how I do my DVDs.
You just tangle them all together. It makes it tough to get out there. Yeah. It's like balls of yarn. Everything sticks together.
So if you really
I've
want
gone through 10 cats.
if you really want to go shoot a place, you got to do some work. Of course, you got to get at the gun.
Yeah, you got to put in the effort first. Right?
And by the way, this is all lightheartedness. Come on, nobody be offended. We're trying to make light of a situation, please.
Yeah. So you do competition shooting. So explain what type of competition or sport do you use an AR-15 for, or AR-15 style type of weapon?
So I use mine. We do multi-gun competition. So we'll do pistol and rifle, and then some just plain rifle.
Any slingshots or
no,
no,
none of that.
Bats with
we don't throw
barbed wire.
We don't throw rocks or anything like that. No.
And how popular is the sport? Do a lot of people choose the AR-15, or is it a preference thing? Or
yeah, so there's different organizations nationwide and around the world that do these rifle competitions, and the AR is the standard. I mean, that's what everybody uses because generally speaking, it's the easiest to use. It's most easily controllable. It has capacity, whatever. It's customizable. So if you want to do a particular type of competition, if you want to do long range competition, you just get a different upper with longer barrels, whatever. So
the AR-15 is a lot like the Jeep Wrangler of guns. I mean, you can customize it, you can paint them.
It's more
utility,
and it's
really,
versatile.
It's more like the '96 Honda Civic. You can put spoilers on it. You can put those fancy rims,
good analogy.
some spinners.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you want to do analogies there.
You know what? That's
make them valid.
That's the acceptable
That's
one.
great.
There we go.
So, what's your position on this? Obviously, every time there's a shooting, there's going to be different debates and rhetoric and political stuff. I want to try to stay away from the political side of it, but really, what's your honest opinion? Do you think these AR-15 style weapons should be accessible, or are they considered sport weapons? Or
yes,
okay,
they are considered sporting arms.
Now, what is the difference between that and another type of sporting arm besides the customization and the firepower? They're easier to use, but what is it that makes people really want to hang on to the AR-15 style gun
As a sporting weapon.
Well, really, it is that customizability.
There you go.
Whatever
Customization?
is that ability to to customize it for every particular job that you may want to do.
Okay.
It's perfectly valid for hunting. States that have laws that say, well, you can only hunt with straight-walled cartridges. Well, you can get an AR-15 upper in a straight-walled caliber, go out and hunt deer with it. Fine. Here in Texas, they're hunting hogs with them every day, all day. For, like you said, competition for home defense. I've got them set up for home defense. Ballistically speaking, it's superior to shotguns than to pistols. That's what I've got setups for that, and I think that's really what people latch on to. And then of course, you start having we have really large veteran populations. These are guys that's what they know. That's the gun, a version of the gun that they know exactly.
Right.
And so. You look back, historically, And when you have these large populations of people going to fight wars and things like that, or not even just that, but where they travel in groups, and they do certain things and they have certain things, when they come back from that, they want to keep that. So, like, it was a big thing after World War II. These guys came back from the Army, and they wanted to bring their Jeeps and their motorcycles.
And Honda Civics.
And their Honda Civics.
1996
exactly.
Honda Civics.
Yeah.
That was great.
So, it's a lot of that. It's familiarity. It's, the customization. It's, it's the right tool for a lot of jobs.
So when people say, well, what's the purpose of having this weapon? You're providing that. Well, not you're providing, but you're stating this is the purpose. This is the reason why people
there are
have
plenty.
it.
Yeah, there are plenty of purposes.
Now, what are the things that you would personally tell people that say, let's say only military and law enforcement should have this type of weapon? What would you tell those two types of people? Because it is based on a military style
yeah.
weapon.
Sure.
So to say the military's purpose in using weapons is to kill people, right? I mean, you don't shoot security boxes or cameras off with them, but you're using bullets to kill people.
So cool.
Well,
That'd be kind of neat. Just
that's
to watch.
Rambo too.
I know. That's Call of Duty.
But in theory, the gun that is used, the M4, is used to kill people.
Sure.
And the AR-15 was built on that type of gun. So what do you say to people that say, well, they're not assault, some people will say they're assault rifles. That definition is kind of blurred. There's really no real definition. I've heard that the term assault weapon was basically made up as a political way to, just
demonize the weapon.
Yeah. So, but what would you say?
No one would go along with a ban on defensive weapons. But you call it an assault weapon,
Right?
And you can get people saying, well, "I don't want you assaulting me," and I'll say, "Well, I want to defend my home with it." No, it's an assault weapon. You don't defend things with it. Well, I can.
I mean, in all fairness, the soldiers do use it to defend themselves from.
Absolutely.
But then again, this is warfare, and that's its intended use. Its intended use is to go out there and kill the enemy if they so need to.
Is it though? I mean, going by
but
what Barry
here's the
said.
thing.
He's
But
using it for sport.
I'm
That's
talking
not
about the
intention.
M4 because this is what this weapon was pretty much
Well,
based on.
the
So
way
the
I see it
M4
is-
was made
But
to
that's-
help infantrymen defend themselves in battle.
Was
in
it
war.
any gun? I mean, then by that
Yeah.
definition, isn't any gun?
Yeah, but that's
Exactly.
the case. If that were the case, they'd be out there with a handgun, but they're not.
And just to be clear,
Sure
the
they are.
the M4.
Of course they are.
Not specifically. They've got it as a sidearm.
Sure, but they still have it.
Yes, in case they lose.
But they also have handguns.
Yeah.
Not all military are issued rifles. A lot of them
No, they're
have
not.
a
And
later
I've worked on
sidearm.
military.
Yeah.
I've worked on military installations, so I know how that goes.
Yeah, and so that's the thing is, not everybody, you call it a military style weapon. Well, every weapon is military style. If you want to get down to it, that's where they all come from.
Not a 22 long rifle Taurus.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Let's not get into High Point right now.
with a spoiler on the back.
22s are actually used by a number of militaries because they suppress very well. They're good subsonic. At distance, they can be less than lethal.
But how many military units actually use those right now, currently, for war, for actual combat?
As a standard issue,
Some.
which means what?
But I mean,
Some.
in defense of, but in defense of Barry, by his definition, by not so much his definition, but by definition, all weapons, all guns would be considered military. That's their purpose, to either defend or to cause harm, in a very, very broad sense.
I'm pretty sure the weapons that were used by Spaniards weren't specifically, or even like the
No,
Western
a musket.
frontiermen.
A musket
Yeah.
is going to be single shot and takes a while to reload. You have to.
Can you imagine using that right now?
And I know that the argument has been, getting into the Second Amendment, that's been one of the arguments is, well, back then when they wrote the Bill of Rights, they fired muskets. And I know that's not completely accurate, and I'm pretty sure the forefathers understood that there's going to be technology and advances, and I'm pretty sure they understood that there's going to be other weapons besides a single shot musket with the big ball bearing and all that stuff. But at the same time, the Constitution has evolved. It's changed. There's things that the Constitution allowed back then that have been amended because society evolves. We change.
And it was
Yeah.
made as an amendable document.
And yeah, exactly. And from the pro-gun community, what I see a lot of times is it was written that way. It should stay that way. And I have a problem with that because at the same time, the Constitution allowed for slavery and it didn't allow women to vote. Does that mean those amendments also should
That's
be?
how it's written.
Right.
See, I liken the Constitution a lot to the Bible in that when you read it, it's really up to interpretation also.
Yeah.
Just because it's word printed down does not mean it is, no pun intended, gospel. But you have to take into it interpretation of it. So not only is it amendable and changeable, it's also in the perception of it and the interpretation of what it's saying.
Barry?
Very, very
Well,
good at point.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a living document, and I think that the founding fathers were very, I'm not going to presume to know exactly what they were doing.
We can only hope.
But I think that they very purposely did things like didn't say that the First Amendment protects newspapers. They said freedom of the press. They said, Second Amendment doesn't say the right to keep and bear muskets. It says arms. Because they knew that things change. Evolution, technology evolves, things change. You want to ensure that certain rights are more broadly, interpretable in order to have the First Amendment protect Twitter, for example. And that's sort of, those crazy analogies that a lot of people have is, well, should you need a license to get a gun? Well, maybe, but should you need a license to get on, the internet? Should you need a license to be on the radio? Besides,
they
FCC
just
laws, whatever. But
they just
They're not even there.
Yeah.
They
Doesn't
just
care.
repealed the FCC ruling on
Right.
internet, so it's now no longer utility. So technically, you're giving that power to the service providers, the
Right.
internet provider. So now is what's happening if we don't regulate the AR-15 style weapons or other weapons? Is the power giving? Is the government giving that power of the control to the manufacturers or to the actual people?
I'm not sure I'm getting that.
So, like you're saying, the First Amendment and the freedom of the press should apply to Twitter or internet in general,
Well, I think it should apply to anything.
to
that's-
free speech.
Yeah.
But the government has already repealed that, so now it's in control of the service providers. So if we're
Well,
I'm talking about net neutrality.
Yeah,
So
right.
basically, if that access is in control of the service providers, is gun control in the hands of the manufacturers, like the NRA, which represents the beliefs of the manufacturers, not necessarily the gun holders.
So who should have control of access?
Right.
well, the government controls that. We've got thousands and thousands of laws that already.
But the Second Amendment is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So it's basically to protect ourselves from the federal government if something,
Doesn't,
if they start to infringe on the state rights, right? Isn't that a well-regulated state militia?
doesn't say state militia.
Well, of the
So,
state.
say-
of
okay.
of the governing state.
Oh, all right, yeah. So the Supreme Court has held what were the terms? A prefatory clause. Basically, the Second Amendment is two things. It's saying that a well-regulated militia is necessary, and that the right to keep and bear arms should not be infringed. One is not mutually exclusive of the other, or inclusive. You don't have to be a militia to keep and bear arms, which is why this is semantics and punctuation and everything, but that's how the courts have interpreted it. You do not have to be well-regulated militia in order to exercise the right to keep and bear arms.
Now, how many? If it's supposed to be the way the amendment was written by the founding fathers, it does say a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Like, who are these members of? Well, for one, can
Where
you
is this
define
well-regulated militia?
what is a well-regulated militia?
So I believe officially now the militia is considered to be like state national guard,
Right, and that's what
state guard, but different states have different rules and different regulations on what can be a militia, which is why you can have you could go and start your own militia tomorrow if you wanted to.
But there's no regulation on it.
So this
Sure,
militia.
yeah, there are laws against it. I shouldn't say against it. There are laws that govern what a militia can and can't do. I mean, you can't start your own militia and then use it to go overthrow the government. That's just that's against the law. What gets regulated there is the members more so than the militia itself, in that the regulation on who, if you want to be an armed militia, well, do you meet the qualifications in order to be legally armed? And if the answer is no, well, how can you be the militia if you can't legally be armed?
Okay. What are some of the issues that you have when people say that the Constitution doesn't mean the AR-15 style weapons or whatever weapons? Obviously, some
It
weapons
doesn't mean muskets. Does it say muskets?
No.
Yeah, well,
And I
there you
agree
go.
with you on
Does
that.
it say swords?
I agree with you on
Does it
that.
say sharpened spoons?
Well,
I mean, that's the thing. It's his arms, and like I
okay,
said,
what
I
if
think
they
that
meant
that's-
literally arms? Like you have the right to not have your limbs taken
Listen, if
away.
you don't want your hand, you don't have to have it.
You have
Or
the
you
right
can
to
now
be
take somebody
sleeveless
else's
all day.
arms.
You have the right
add them
to
to your
wear
collection.
tank tops.
Yeah.
But I mean, we can get into, like, obviously the Supreme Court has looked at this
But again,
in
I
the
think
past.
what it boils down to again is still its definition and perception of definition, and who we
Well-
are allowing the definition. If it's coming from the Supreme Court,
Well, and the courts rule on Second Amendment issues all the time.
But at
And-
the same time, Anthony Scalia said himself that this shouldn't apply to the assault rifle style weapons, and Reagan was opposed to that as well. And he was a huge defender of firearms. I mean, he was huge. So the question is,
except not so much.
well, given
What
give
happened
an
in
example.
1986 when he was in charge?
The Panama deal?
That's when it got illegal to manufacture machine guns, for one.
Is that from 80s?
1986.
I thought that was well, which was the one that was in 93 and then passed in 94.
That was the assault weapons ban.
Okay. And did he oppose that, or was he in favor of that?
The assault weapons ban?
Yeah, that was Carter that was in favor, Reagan was in favor, and then Clinton is the one that actually passed it.
Could be. I don't remember exactly who was.
So we're going to go in circles as far as what this particular weapon means. But what do you feel about other weapons that are illegal? Like, let's say a sawed-off shotgun. That's not covered in federal law, but
Oh, yes, it is.
is it?
Oh, yeah.
So why isn't that considered just another arm?
what makes it illegal?
Bureaucracy.
It's not illegal.
I mean, you
It's
personally
perfectly
said
legal.
you don't like shotguns. What makes?
Oh
it-
no, I don't have any use for one. I don't hunt.
I don't
hunt
like
doves or
shotguns.
anything.
But you can.
I
But
think
you
they're-
can use the AR-15 to hunt if you so desired.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like shotguns because they're messy. The accuracy isn't that great. They're loud. They'll probably kick you back. For home protection, I wouldn't. I don't know about the
No.
newer ones, but I would never
No.
use that. And I can see using an AR-15 style weapon for home defense. I can see that. It's just that every time there's another shooting like this, I think 6 out of the last 10 have included a weapon like this.
Sure.
So I'm thinking this was based on military type of weapon. Obviously, you said that there's a lot of veterans that prefer that because it's got some type of sentimental value. It kind of goes along with what they were using when they were enlisted. But at the same time, I feel like most of the public doesn't need a weapon like this. So maybe the solution is not necessarily banning them, but why not make them a little bit harder to obtain? Why not require what do you need right now to buy an AR-15 in Texas?
In Texas,
Yeah.
you need a state ID. You have to be over 18. You have to have a clean background check, which means no felonies, no You can't be adjudicated mentally defective. No commissions to.
What
mental
about any
institutions.
drug charges or violent charges?
If you've been convicted of domestic violence, you are precluded from owning firearms. If you are a user of illegal drugs, and that's actually something that's kind of interesting, because in places like Colorado, where it's legal to smoke pot,
Yeah.
you are not allowed to buy a gun if you're smoking pot in Colorado. Like, that is straight up federally illegal. And so that's become this sort of weird kind of gray area, because, well, the state law says one thing, but the federal law says another thing.
Right.
When you go to fill out that federal background check, it asks if you're a user of illegal drugs, and they've had to add wording into it in the definitions to say, even if you live in the state where it's legal, federal law says it is illegal, and you
Right.
must, answer yes, I'm a user of illegal drugs, and you will be denied that purchase.
Do you think it should be harder to obtain these weapons, or do you think it's fine the way it is, or do you think it's overregulated as it is?
I think it's fine how it is. I mean, when the system is used the way it's designed, it works. A lot of people get denied the purchases. The problems arise when there's that lack of information sharing, and we were discussing this earlier.
Like the church shooter.
He had been convicted in a court martial, which those records weren't transferred properly. They should have been.
Right.
Yes, this
but
was
they
a
weren't.
failure on the Army's part.
and they didn't
Force.
transfer.
Military.
Air Force.
Whoever the hell that was.
I think it was Air Force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
They
not
didn't-
throw the Army under the bus.
Yes, let's
right.
not.
Just
That's why I amended myself and
angry
I said
Army guys
military.
going.
Oh yes, especially here. Sorry to all my friends who are
But yeah.
military.
So that's when you have these failures. And, you hate to say that you slip through the cracks, but
That's what
But
happened.
he did.
the fact of the matter is someone was at fault for that, for not making sure that information was shared properly. Dylan Roof in North Carolina or South Carolina,
Yeah.
same thing. He had issues in the past, but they weren't included in the background check because the state didn't share the information properly with the FBI for the background check.
Well, then let's flip it on you. Let's talk about the Aurora, Colorado shooter in the movie theater. Let's talk about the Las Vegas shooter, and by almost purposely, almost subconsciously, I won't remember their names. I've completely
That's fine.
blocked that out just
Yeah.
because. Let's talk about the latest school shooting. So how are these individuals who really, for the most part, I think out of those three that I mentioned, don't have a military background. How are they getting these weapons? Why are they getting these weapons? How do we make it harder for an 18, 19-year-old kid to get these weapons, knowingly that if you want a gun, you're going to get a gun, whatever gun you want. There's ways to get it.
Of course.
Do you make it harder for them? How are they getting them? Charlie said something almost as a joke earlier, but it's something that I've seen on Facebook a few times. Do you jack up the prices of the ammunition because now I'm shooting $500, rounds every time? I mean, what can we do to solve? I know there's no solve, but what can we do to solve that? These individuals.
Do you think any 18-year-old should have, as long as they fit that definition, do you think they should be able to buy a weapon like that just by walking in and out?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't think 18 is too young?
To do what? Join the army and get issued one?
Well, you can do that at 17.
Yeah.
No.
There's drinking
But-
age at
but
21.
they're showing you how to kill. I mean, that's the military, right? They're showing you to train you to use these weapons to kill people. So I would put that in a different box. I'm just saying the people that don't want to join the military. Do you think just any 18-year-old should be able to just walk in, get a gun, and that's it? I mean,
No, I don't think just any 18-year-old should be able to do it. I think any 18-year-old who
'Cause-
is able to meet the legal requirements should be able to.
because by 18, there's usually no criminal record because you're 18. So even if they had a juvenile record, that's sealed because they were juveniles at the time. So you don't think there's a loophole there, or maybe a hold? Let's say you're under 25, there should be a 30-day hold or something like that. Do you think it's fine the way it is?
So the federal background check right now can take up to 5 days to do. And in the meantime, you don't get the gun. Like if you
Right.
go inside, you go fill out the form, do the background check, and they do what's called a delay. And so the dealer either calls up FBI or does it all online. It's all online now. And you just get this notice that says delay. And what that means is we're not sure you should sell this to him or her.
Yeah.
Give us a couple of days to look into it. And if it takes them 3 days, takes that 72 hours, and on the 5th day, they've decided, well, we can't find anything, they won't approve the sale. What happens is it just clears. It gets approved because it times out, basically.
Okay. Now, is it at the discretion of the gun dealer to make that decision, or do they?
After 5 days, yes. So I know there are some dealers who will not do sales transfers without an approval. So if after that time lapses, the FBI hasn't come back and said approved, then they just won't do the sale.
So let me ask you on this. Obviously, that's a dealer, right? The FFL.
Right.
Now, what about private gun sales between individuals?
Okay.
I mean, there's no background check. There's no bill of sale. There's nothing. One person can buy the same type of weapon by skipping the dealer altogether and skipping the dealer's discretion and the FBI check. So is that working fine the way it is?
So right now, anybody who wants to do a private transfer, a private legal transfer, so like in Texas, you don't have to do sales through a licensed dealer. You can do person-to-person sales. As the system is built now, anytime that I want to do that, I can take that, like say you want to buy a gun from me. And I say, great, bring your money. We're going to go over to this shop over here, and they're going to run a background check. You're not buying it through that dealer, but the background check now has a little checkbox for private sale. And what that tells the FBI is this is not going through the licensed dealer. It's being done by private individuals.
But how many people actually do that?
Quite a few, actually. I didn't think people would. And I don't know that, I couldn't tell you if it's a majority, if it's 50% or whatever. But I do know that it is being used.
Because in all reality, most of the people that we've discussed have probably acquired their weapons in just that very same manner without going, because I didn't know you had, or you could do that. Go to the dealer and have them run the background for you. But I'm pretty sure, and these are, again, all assumptions, but I'm pretty sure that this is how most of these guys acquired their weapons.
For the most part, that's not true. This kid in Florida bought his through a licensed dealer.
The vast majority have.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that at least that one crazy old man,
In Vegas?
and I can't remember his name, but I'm pretty sure that's probably how he got his, because there's no way he would have gotten them otherwise.
Yeah, and
granted,
again,
that is a small percentage.
Yeah,
That is.
And well, and I mean, if you want to talk about small percentages, ARs get used in a 100th% of all crimes. I mean, you want to ban this gun that gets used less than people getting murdered with baseball bats. So where do you draw that line?
Well,
Ban
you
the
don't have
Jose
to-
Canseco bat.
You don't have to fill out paperwork to buy a baseball.